I want to talk to you about a new microphone I got recently. I switched from the AKG C414, which I've been using for a long time and actually covered in another video, which I use primarily for voiceovers and just getting room tone. So I wanted to try something different because a lot of times when I'm recording voiceovers for screen recordings, I have a lot of mouth noises that I have to go in and EQ. And this is for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes the plugins I run through might have the wrong settings on them. And maybe I'm running the mic too hot, for example, and it's just picking up too much sound. And maybe that's why I have a lot of the issues that I run into when it comes to recording voiceovers. But I wanted to try something different. And part of this was inspired by a video my friends John and Tom put out recently, where they did a microphone shootout with a bunch of different mics on the same guitar cabinets, and their findings surprised them. They ended up liking a mic that they would have never thought to use on a guitar amp prior to running the test, and just, I think, did it for fun, and they really liked the results. So I started researching mics that might be a better fit for the way I talk, the tenor of my voice, and really what I'm trying to capture when it comes to recording voiceovers. Of course, the Shure SM7 is a mic I use a lot of times when I'm recording vocals. And again, the C414 is an incredible mic. But then I found a company based out of East L.A. that's making some really cool microphones that I just couldn't stop looking at. And that's how I ended up getting an Ohma mic from the fine folks at Ohma in East L.A. Now, this microphone is a one of a kind. So meaning the color scheme for this was a one-off, and I got it during their vault sale, which I just couldn't resist. What's interesting about this mic is that I plan to use this primarily to record voiceovers. But I think what makes my choice to use this particular microphone interesting is that it's actually a ribbon microphone, not a condenser microphone. Normally, I would use a condenser microphone to record voiceovers, especially for things like screen recordings or hosting a podcast, where I probably would use the SM7 in that case, just because that's what people are familiar to listening to and have come to expect from that format. When I started thinking about my friends John and Tom, I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting if I could use a ribbon mic from a very cool boutique manufacturer and use it in a different application than you might normally apply the microphone. For example, you can actually switch out the screens on the microphone. I mean, look at this thing. It's just so cool. These are my favorite colors ever. And what I can do is use the included guitar pick. Not that my studio is lacking guitar picks, they're all over the place. But I like this one because it has the Ohma logo on it. And you can actually replace the screen or filter on this microphone. And so because I already have a condenser mic, the C414, I wanted to get something different. So I went with the ribbon mic simply because I already have a condenser, and I don't want to have two condenser mics if I can go ahead and expand my mic library to now include a ribbon mic. But what I can do is affect the way the mic sounds essentially. And this I'll use when I record my guitar amplifiers. So when I put the ribbon mic up against a speaker cab in one of the amplifiers that I own, this is the screen that I'll use to do that. But when I'm recording voiceovers, this is the screen I'm going to use. And again, it just looks really cool. And this mic is incredibly well built. And the folks at Ohma have just been really great to work with. They actually have a program where you can try a microphone out for 2 weeks to see if you like it, use it in your studio, and if you don't like it, you send it back to them. This is not a paid partnership, by the way. This is just my mic, and these are my thoughts, and I wanted to share them with you. So let's hear how this mic sounds in the context of a voiceover. Welcome to this side of my office where I'll show you how I generally go about recording voiceovers for screen recordings, which I do a lot for work and also my YouTube channel. So let's take a look. You can see I've got the Ohma website pulled up right now in full screen. This is a great site. It's super easy to navigate. Obviously, they've done an amazing job with their marketing. I mean, this is outstanding. If you look at this video here, you can see how the mic is used in different applications, and you can pick different colorways, and you can switch out the screens, and there's an example of them doing that right now. There's a vocal take, you're gonna see guitar, being played, and that's that screen that I showed you earlier where I can swap out for recording my guitar amp. So you get the idea. There's a bunch of different ways you can use these mics. They're gorgeous to look at. You can read more about what goes into the mics by checking out their blog. And if you want to learn even more about the microphones, you can come here to the support link and then click Manual and Specs. This is where you can find information around where the frequencies lie. So if you wanted to learn more about the condenser versus the ribbon mic, you can see the measurements here in frequency response, for example. That's where you can learn more about what mic might be best for you depending on what your situation is. You can also reach out to these friends, and I'm sure they'd help you pick the right microphone for your room, for your situation, whether it's a ribbon mic, a condenser mic, and then what screen might be best suited for the way that you work. Down here at the bottom, there's an FAQ, so you can learn more about the condenser versus ribbon mic. And I want to show you something super awesome. Bartees Strange did a demo. I mean, come on, that's so cool. I really dig what Bartees is putting out there into the world, and I think it's so cool that somebody of his caliber would come in and do a demo, and you can watch that here and read more about what they used on the setup, which again, I think is just so cool. And this is not the only demo, of course. There's a ton of demos where you can go and you can watch and listen to different ways the mics behave. And this is just a sampling of some of them. There are even more demos you can find if you want to drill into that. And of course, they've got a YouTube and an Instagram where you can find out even more. If you come over here to the UA screen, this is how I am running the channel strip right now. So you can see that I've got a console setting for ScreenFlow, which is the application I currently use when I'm doing screen recordings. And this is my channel strip. So right now I'm providing power to my Ohma mic, and then I'm running it through the LA 6176 in the Unison location here in my channel strip. And then I've got the EQP 1A and then the Helios to add a little bit of EQ that I like for the way my voice sounds. And I like for my input gain to sit right around -9, -6 dB. And you can see that if I talk quiet, I'm hitting 9. And if I get really excited, I get up to that -6 mark. And that's partly because of the way that I'm compressing this signal chain. You can see that I'm running it a little hot in terms of the input gain, and I do get a little signal noise, of course, running it this hot, but that's just where it sits for the level of my voice. And in terms of peak compression, I don't want to go too far above 3 for the most part. So just like kind of gently nudging, unless I get loud again, and of course it's going to catch that stuff, but I try not to get too excited as much as I can. And so that's how I use the Ohma ribbon mic to record my voice for screen recordings, as well as voiceovers for things like podcasts. Even on my Zoom calls, I use this microphone right here. Yeah, super versatile, awesome microphone. I'm really digging it. And it looks really cool in the studio. I recommend you check out the microphone because you really have nothing to lose. If you don't like it, you can send it back within 2 weeks. For what the microphones are in terms of the components and the durability, as I mentioned, and just the quality of the recording, the microphone is at a lower price point than you might expect. Just going back to conventions, normally I would go with like a Royer R122 or a 122V, for example, if I was gonna mic a guitar amp, and probably pair that with an SM57, which is very common. It's so common, in fact, there's a clip that supports both the Royer R121 and the SM7, so you can just have both mics connected to one clip on one mic stand to save space, and you can really figure out where you like those in terms of getting the right phase for how you mic a speaker. But the thing is, in this studio, I'm not cranking my amplifiers like I would if I was, in Sweetwater's Studio A and could just really turn it up and then also record the room tone of that space. Here I'm gonna run my amps either through the Universal Audio aux box, or I'm gonna use like the Benson Mixwave Chimera plugin, or maybe I use my Neural DSP. Or maybe I just plug my guitar into my audio interface and use the high Z port, open up Ableton, and then record into Lion or Ruby or one of the Universal Audio guitar amp modelers that I can run inside my DAW. So I've got a lot of options in terms of recording guitar in a bedroom studio like the one I'm in now. Realistically, this room just isn't made for cranking a guitar amp and miking it up. Am I gonna use a ribbon mic to crank my amp and record it in this space? Maybe. If I really want to bother my neighbors one day, maybe I'll go ahead and just crank it up. I don't think I'll upset my neighbors too bad, but for the most part, I just record in one of those other ways that I mentioned, primarily the neural DSP when I'm in this particular studio space. But if I go to a studio and have a professional recording session set up, you know, they're gonna have a lot more microphones than I have access to, and I won't have to be the person that sets all that up necessarily. There'll be people there to help me and make the right choices in terms of, you know, getting the right tone for whatever I'm going for in the song and for that particular part. So why not spend half as much money on a ribbon mic that I can use for several other applications outside of just recording guitar amps into it, which is how I would personally normally approach the ribbon mic family, right? Kind of interesting. I was honestly really impressed with how this thing sounded in the context of voiceover recordings, and so wanted to share my thoughts with you. Again, this is just my own personal view. This is not a sponsored video in any way. And yeah, I hope that you check these friends out and give it a shot. You know, pick a color that matches your studio, or if you're gonna record your amps, maybe you get one that matches the Tolex on the amp or the grill cloth or something like that. There's also a lot of really great demos on the site, so you can kind of hear the mics in various applications, and even a comparison between a vocal take using a ribbon mic and then a vocal take using a condenser mic from Ohma. And you'll notice the condenser mic is definitely made more for that, you know, sparkly top end is how it's often described. And you can really hear that in the examples. I think for me, a darker tone was more of what I was looking for. I can shape that stuff, of course, with EQ and different post-processing effects to get the sound that I want out of my vocal performance. But I think my voice naturally sits a little lower, not baritone necessarily, but probably more tenor than alto or soprano, right? So I was just looking for something with a little bit more darker character to it. And I think I found that in the ribbon mic, which is not something I would have normally just tried on my own without having some inspiration for trying different things out. And so I'm really glad that I did that. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video and maybe you'll try out the Ohma mic for yourself. If you do try one out, let me know what you think in the comment section below and tell me how you're using it. Maybe you're recording instruments like an acoustic guitar or a saxophone. Maybe you're miking your own guitar amp. So I'd love to hear about that, and I hope you have a great day. Take care, and I'll see you soon.